On the surface, there's tranquility and peace, but all is not as it seems. A battle is raging with a civic leader. The tide of hostility erupted with a letter to the local paper.
In a place beginning with a B and ending with a D, a determined leader clings to power.
But this isn't Baghdad. This is a community in Wales.
Documents have been stolen from the council offices, and we are contacting the police on that issue.
I answered the door to two people who turned out to be the police, who stated that they had a search warrant.
He makes jokes no one else understands and describes those opposed to his aims as vermin. Any citizen with the audacity to challenge him is publicly vilified and personally blamed for every woe to befall the region over the last century.
I've seen the crap on your website, right?
Oh, well,
there is no analysis, there is no comment.
How can you
it's just
call
a
my
list.
website that?
It's crap.
Today there have been renewed calls for the resignation of council leader Jeff Jones. He admits there are many people who dislike or even hate him, but says there's one thing people can be certain of. He says he always tells them the truth. One of the most beautiful areas in the county borough of Bridgend is under threat. It's to be the home for a new Welsh rugby academy. Opponents claim it's no more than a fig leaf to hide another housing scheme. Last December, they believed they'd won the battle to halt the development.
Within 1 week, the leader of the council, Jeff Jones, said that he was dissatisfied with this planning committee, that he, in fact, didn't like the decision they had come up with, that he intended to disband them and set up a new committee.
Opponents like former senior planning officer Bob Burns knew they'd won a battle, but the war was far from over. In early February, he went to inspect the plans that had been resubmitted. To his surprise, he found confidential documents on the public file relating to the development. He asked for copies.
And that's all I did. And that's all I ever do, is ask for papers, get given them, I read them, and then ask for copies.
He felt the documents may have been evidence of improper conduct by the council leader.
I asked for a copy, was refused, so I took a photograph of the said document.
He felt the content so damaging he complained to the council. He then took his complaint unsuccessfully to the Ombudsman, but he took the story to the local paper, the Glamorgan Gazette. On the day it was published, HTV met Jeff Jones at the former prisoner of war camp on the Island Farm site.
Documents have been stolen from the council offices, and we are contacting the police on that issue. And the person who received those documents has then handed them to the press, and obviously the police will investigate.
Jeff Jones later claimed that HTV had duped him into being interviewed on the matter. It was even worse for the man accused of theft. The nightmare began for Bob Burns when the police knocked at his door.
They had a search warrant, and I invited them in. And I made it absolutely clear to the police at that time that I had not stolen them, that I had taken a photograph.
Jeff Jones has been a prominent councillor for many years, but in the late 1990s, local government in Wales was being reorganised. His power base was his hometown of Maesteg. He was seeking nomination for the new Bridgend County Borough Council. One of his opponents was Bill Evans.
I've been chairman, treasurer of the local branch. I've been chairman of the constituency party 3 times.
Jeff Jones failed to win selection as one of the 2 candidates for the Maesteg East Ward. As the controversy raged, he appealed to the Welsh Labour Party, saying nomination papers had not been sent out properly.
But he was the secretary of the ward, so therefore he was responsible to make sure that everybody in the ward was notified of the selection meeting.
The appeal was upheld, and Bill Evans lost the official Labour Party nomination. He'd given loyal service to the Labour Party for nearly 50 years.
They cast me aside. After all the work I'd done for the Labour Party and the trade union movement, I counted for nothing. So I thought, well, and then all the family said, Bill, stand against them.
In May 1999, the people of Maesteg had their say. It was a resounding victory for Bill Evans as the independent Labour candidate. He got 1,075 votes. Jeff Jones was elected too, in second place. He got 769, just 47 more than the third unsuccessful candidate. But his ambition wasn't satisfied by getting elected. He wanted the leadership of the council too. He was challenged unsuccessfully by Madeleine Moon. She was a councillor for Porthcawl in the south of the borough, and over the next 2 years was a leading figure in the controversy over the development of the seaside town. Plan after plan was set aside. The council owned only a part of the area to be redeveloped, Sandy Bay Caravan Park. Despite the uncertainty over the future, they closed it down.
I've never seen anything like it. The square out here was full of people. They were crying, they were upset. People have spent their life savings on some of these caravans.
These people don't have the money. They feel like they've been treated very, very unfairly by the council.
I'm sorry, as a council we have to take decisions which will benefit the people of the County Borough of Bridgend. Only 8% of those who actually have caravans at Sandy Bay are residents of the County Borough of Bridgend.
The angry caravanners threatened legal action and were given compensation by the council. But the site closed all the same.
The council, in its wisdom, decided to shut it down, losing $100,000 a year in revenue. It's now a waste site, it's an embarrassment to all concerned, it's atrocious, and it's certainly a good indication of how Bridgend County Borough Council sees Porthcawl.
Steve Maitland-Thomas has been one of the most outspoken critics of the council, showering the local paper with letters. He intends to stand for the council next year. Others, like Simon Foster, have already taken that step.
Serving as a councillor in Ponticum is a pleasure because I get to talk to all the people and, you know, get feedback and find out what's going on. Serving as a councillor on the council floor is, it's tough going, basically, because I'm really in there on my own and it is a hostile environment.
In the council chamber, he's regularly shouted down. Simon Foster may have a foreign accent, but he was born in South Wales.
I think it's only Jeff Jones, who's the leader, who feels confident enough, I think, to actually make snide remarks at the fact that I've spent most of my life overseas from Canada and then I'm a foreigner and I should therefore go home and I'm not welcome.
But it's not just a foreign accent that leads to comment from the council leader. Others have also felt the force of his tongue.
He tries to belittle people. As we've done on many occasions, he tried to belittle me.
Bill Evans remembers vividly when he opposed Jeff Jones over a plan for increased allowances for councillors.
And I told him, as far as I'm concerned, it was immoral. And that I wouldn't be taking that £1,000 extra. He said, it's all right for Bill Evans. You know, he got a pension. And he gets a reduction in council tax.
Bill Evans says the reduction in council tax came after the death of his wife.
I'd rather have my wife there with me and paying the 100%. But the point is that he's a person that can be very vindictive, and he has been very vindictive to me.
But Jeff Jones has also attacked councillors who are members of his own party, individual councillors who have been prepared to publicly criticise him.
Sarcastic, patronising and irrational. I don't like it, and it encourages a kind of sneering by his apparatchiks. I don't want to be sneered at, obviously I don't. I've said that I didn't go into public life to make enemies. I don't want to say hi to a Conservative or a Liberal in the street and be accused of disloyalty to the Labour group, but it's a kind of tribalism.
But it's not just fellow councillors who are attacked. He seems prepared to take on any opponent.
You put it in after I started making a fuss.
On the day we filmed Jeff Jones at the prisoner of war camp, he met a council employee. The full story after the break.
I've seen the crap on your website, right?
Oh, well,
there is no analysis, there is no comment.
How can
it's
you
just
call
a
my
list.
website that?
It's crap. It is utter crap. There's no analysis.
the trail of forgotten souls, Lionel Fanthorpe explores more churchyards and cemeteries in search of their tales of caution, of greed, of good, and the self-proclaimed.
Obviously a man not obstructed by his modesty.
Talking Stones, Tuesday at 7:30 on ITV1 Wales.
It's the development of Island Farm that's now become the main focus for opposition to Councillor Jeff Jones. The plan is to build over 200 houses worth £500,000 each, a hotel, and to extend a science park. The site is open fields between Bridgend and the picturesque village of Merthyr Mawr. The developers have also promised to build what would be the Welsh Rugby Academy. They've promised to build it for nothing because they've got permission for the rest of the development.
It's been very obvious, I think, to everybody that there has been a single driving force behind this scheme from day one, and that's been the leader of the council, Councillor Jeff Jones.
The village of Merthyr Mawr is described by the council itself as the jewel in the borough crown. Protesters claim this unique village will be ruined by the development.
These are people who are only interested in their own backyard. They don't look at the wider picture. This will be the National Centre of Excellence for Welsh Rugby. We'll have high-quality housing, which is essential to attract executive people into Bridgend, and also, hopefully, a hotel. And improvements on the A48, which we need. This is a win-win situation for the people of Bridgend.
He has been pushing through this development. Every time there appeared to be any kind of setback, he has stepped in and he has, well, to be quite frank, manipulated the system to make sure that the development then goes forward.
Last December, the opponents were overjoyed when the development was rejected by the council's planning committee.
The council have turned down this absolutely disastrous development in Bridgend. It wasn't warranted, it wasn't needed. You had 5,000 people protesting and the local councillors listened to us. I want to thank them for that.
But the victory was short-lived. Jeff Jones had other ideas. The council's planning system was completely changed.
Within 28 days, Jeff Jones had instigated a procedure within the council to disband the old planning committee, and at the same time the developers made a public announcement that they intended resubmitting the scheme exactly as it had been before, in the hope that a new planning committee, the new one to be set up, would pass this development.
On the edge of the site is the former prisoner of war camp. Hut 9 is all that remains. Towards the end of the Second World War, 67 German prisoners escaped from here. It was the second biggest breakout of the war. The camp housed a number of senior German officers. For some, Hut 9 plays a major part in the history of Bridgend and far beyond.
It's got a wider significance. The American Army was based here in the run-up to D-Day. Eisenhower chose this site to make his pre-D-Day address. Then it opened up as a prisoner of war camp, then there was the escape. And after the war, it housed the top German military that were on trial for Nuremberg.
No, it doesn't mark any occasion in the history of Bridgend. It marks the occasion when 67 Nazis decided to escape, and that's the reason why it is important. There's no other importance whatsoever. This is a monument, sadly, to Nazism.
But the importance of Hut 9 has been recognised. It's a listed building. A website has been set up detailing its history. It was set up by a local man who happens to be an employee of Bridgend Council.
You put it in after I started making a fuss.
Yeah, but you started saying that I was attracting Nazis.
You are attracting Nazis.
One prisoner was a particular target of Councillor Jones. Herman Berend's son recently visited Hut 9. The pictures are on the website.
One person.
Berend's father. Can you tell me how you got in there to have a picture with Berend's son?
I was given access.
Who gave you access?
Oh, I'm not prepared to say
You're
that.
not prepared to say?
No.
Somebody in the council gave you access, right? They had no right to give you access.
They do, actually.
No, they don't.
Yeah, you took the CADU money on the basis of you'd allow public access.
No. They had no right to give you access. You know that Berends was executed in Yugoslavia.
Of course I know. You only know that because I put that on my website.
But what? You did not. You put on your war site, his son said that he was executed after a show trial. Do you think that's right? Do you think that's right?
Well, they obviously, you claim,
do you think
claim
it's
that
right?
there was a appalling war trial.
I claim
After the war, Herman Berens was taken to the former Yugoslavia. He was later executed for war crimes.
You don't have to get aviated with
No,
me.
no,
You
listen
are
now.
getting all aloof
Who
and all aviated.
who
Let's
drew
calm
up
it down a
who
bit.
drew up the list of people who should be killed on the night of the long knives?
My website is purely
Who drew up the list? Who drew up the list? Who drew up the list? Now listen to me now. Who drew up the list on the night of the long knives? We saw the killing of the SA and lots of innocent Germans. Yes.
Yeah.
But it
And lots of
wasn't the chap
German
that was
innocent,
here.
right? Who drew up the list? Berens.
Councillor Jones is a history graduate and was a lecturer before becoming a career politician.
Have you read the latest stuff on the Wehrmacht? Have you read all?
read the last Prussian?
Have you read Ordinary Men? Oh no, I haven't. No. Have you read Ordinary Men by Christopher Browning? Have you read Ordinary Men by Christopher Browning?
I haven't read every book that you're quoting. No, I haven't.
You haven't read anything, have you?
How can you say that? Visit my website and see the hundreds of
I've
pictures.
seen the crap on your website, right?
Oh, well,
there is no analysis, there is no comment.
How can
it's
you
just
call
a
my
list.
website that?
It's crap. It
How
is
can
utter
you-
crap. There's
how
no
can you
analysis.
make that? How
Right?
can you
You just said, right?
I've got a professor of history, modern history, Sheffield University. That's my website, and let me quote what he just says. You've done your research thoroughly and presented unambiguously as historic fact.
Yeah,
That
but
is
no-
a professor
no
of history,
comment, right,
Sheffield
about-
University.
Yeah, no-
How can you say that?
I
it
am
is
saying, right,
crap?
Berens.
How can you say that?
Berens, right, was a war criminal. Do you deny that?
Councillor Jones' attitude to Hut 9 was upsetting local historians.
He was going to knock it down. And then it was pointed out, well, that's actually a listed building and you can't go knocking down listed buildings.
He also claimed it would be difficult to attract other developments because of the condition of the hut.
By that stage, it galvanised public opinion. We had no idea of how much this was thought of by the people of Bridgend. And then there was the most bizarre climb down. After all of that, he suddenly popped up and said he was only joking about it all along. It's bizarre.
But there's evidence to suggest that it was much more than just a joke. Tonight we can reveal that in January, Councillor Jones wrote to the council's chief officer, instructing him to prepare an immediate report on how to get Hut 9 removed from the list of historic monuments. He wrote, it should then be demolished. Councillor Jones was certainly not joking. Jeff Jones did have his supporters. The chief whip of the Labour group wrote to colleagues, quote, in no official capacity, asking them to pledge money to help Jeff Jones's legal action against a local newspaper. The chief whip said he was personally ready to pledge £500. Wales This Week asked him for an interview. He declined the offer to take part in this programme. In April, the newly constituted planning committee passed the plans for the Island Farm development. It meant the 210 new homes could be built, and it's cleared the way for Bridgend to play a part in the future success of Welsh rugby.
It's about young people, young men and women who want to represent our country, want to win for our country, and they'll do that by being involved in the Academy of Excellence in Island Farm. And we're delighted in Bridgend, delighted for ourselves in Welsh rugby.
One of the Assembly members opposed to the scheme was the Conservative Alun Cairns. He's a regional Assembly member, but lives close to the Island Farm site. His disagreements with the council leader had been very public and very heated. There had even been threats of legal action.
He's trying to bully his way to getting his own way. If anyone dare object to any of his views, he either threatens them with legal action or he would report them to their various governing bodies. I've been reported to the Standards Committee. The leader of the opposition in the council has been reported to the Ombudsman. The local paper has been reported to the Press Complaints Commission, and I'm aware of some broadcasters who's been reported to the Broadcasting Standards Council. Now, this man is either paranoid and feels that everyone's picking on him, or he's throwing enough muck at hoping that some will stick and hoping that that will carry favour amongst his Labour group.
By now, the Assembly elections were looming. Peter Phillips decided he would take action. He announced plans to stand for the Assembly as the anti-Jeff Jones candidate.
Well, I thought it would at least act as a catalyst of public opinion, which indeed it did. Of course, then I was naive enough to listen to the Labour Party, who said, don't worry, there's plans afoot to move him out anyway. So I actually stood down.
Peter Phillips would have been standing against one of the most influential Assembly members, Carwyn Jones. He's a leading figure in the Assembly cabinet and tipped by many to go to the very top. He had the most to lose, and according to Peter Phillips, it was he who intervened.
It was Carwyn Jones. Carwyn Jones phoned me up and said, tried to talk me out of running against him, because he was obviously the Labour candidate. When I think the penny dropped that I wasn't going just to not run, he then said, well, there's no need to. Jones's moves are afoot to remove him.
Carwyn Jones was re-elected to the Assembly. Peter Phillips is still waiting for any action to be taken against Jeff Jones. Councillor Jones now took action himself against one of his own party. He wrote to Peter Foley, who'd voiced concern about Labour's performance in the Assembly elections.
I thought it was scurrilous, insulting, the kind of letter that I wouldn't have sent to my worst enemy. I reflected that weekend that here was another weekend ruined by malice. I hope you know there's a culture of malice in Bridgend County Borough Council, a culture of malice which was bad enough kept in the chamber. But when, courtesy of Royal Mail, I get a letter on Saturday morning, I then decide I'm not going to tolerate any more.
His reflections ran deep, and he resigned from the party that he'd first joined 40 years before. The Island Farm Action Group is now considering legal action to try to stop the development. It would mean seeking a judicial review. But there may be more direct action from a younger group of environmental protesters.
There may be people tying themselves to trees. There's a number of people who are against this development who are environmental activists, and they may well get involved as well.
Brett Exton has made a formal complaint. He's claiming he's been harassed unfairly by the council leader. That complaint is now the subject of a formal grievance procedure. Councillor Simon Foster has other plans to fight back. He and others are looking for a new way forward. It's early days.
If I were to give you a clear structure on how all it works, then you can call me Jeff Jones, right? It's not for me, or it's not for anyone to decide how everything works, right? It's for people to come together, you know, and to talk together, to learn from each other, to reach consensus or compromise if that's not possible, and in ways that can ensure that everyone has a voice.
And this week, the man accused of stealing documents from the council has been told by the police that there was no evidence of a criminal offence. He believes Jeff Jones should resign, and he's already considering standing for the council himself.
My character has been defamed. My integrity has been questioned in a public way. It seems that the leader of the council is out of control. What controlling agent is there regarding what Jeff Jones says and does? I'm not sure there is one.
Councillor Jeff Jones declined to take part in this programme.
In next week's programme, a world-famous mine haunts a Welsh community. Under the workings, a huge underground lake of poisonous water, held back by a dam that's crumbling away and threatening to flood a nearby town. Engineers are drilling beneath the mine to drain away millions of tons of water. It's a race against time.